How you doing, guys? I have something very special in my hand right now. I'm going to show it to you. You guys ready? This pill will cure HPPD. This little pill right here is the cure for hallucinogen persisting perception disorder. Now, what I'm going to talk to you guys today about is the placebo effect. I think it's extremely important when discussing HPPD and the mind and psychedelics. Basically, what I'm going to tell you here is I received an email about an individual who got HPPD after an LSD trip, and something in that email, they saw a previous video of mine on HPPD, and something in that email really just hit home with me. Basically, there's this girl I know that has been taking a lot of psychedelics, a lot of drugs in general. She had a hard upbringing. She's a little off due to that upbringing. She doesn't really understand how the world works. She's never had to basically, I would say she's a bit spoiled, and she's always had everything handed to her, and it makes it difficult for her to imagine how hard it can be out there on your own. So anyway, so she's doing a bunch of psychedelics, a lot of them, a lot of drugs in general, and she now believes that because she sees the static at all times, that she thinks she's been granted some sort of psychic abilities, that she can see, auras and all this shit. Now we also have another mutual friend who wants to try psychedelics but is scared to. She's got some anxiety issues, and she's absolutely horrified, but at the same time absolutely fascinated and wants to do it eventually. But basically, I told her I would do it with her if she ever wanted to. I'll be the sitter. I would take a little less than her and, walk her through it if anything happened. Also, I recommended, we would acquire some Xanax or another benzo somehow, and just the fact that that's there, that it's available, can remove some of the possibility of a bad trip occurring. Just knowing that if I do have a bad trip, all I have to do is take that and it'll knock it down many notches. I've done that successfully before when I was enjoying an experience. Just by taking a benzo, I was able to, bring myself down and enjoy the trip. Now, that's a whole other topic. Anyway, so this girl sees static and she thinks she's seeing energy and blah, blah, blah. And I want to say that I do know some very, very gifted, I guess the only term for it would be a medium, people who are very gifted and do have some extraordinary abilities. I do know that is indeed a reality. I do know that psychedelics can actually bring about some of these abilities in people, even just one-off experiences sometimes. I do know that that's real, but this is not what's going on with this girl. She has just literally been not giving her mind a chance to take what she has experienced and incorporate it and ground herself back into reality. Every time she comes off a drug, she's on another one. So she's constantly in these altered states, which are, it's very interesting to watch what happens. I mean, that might sound bad, but it's really interesting to watch what happens to someone that does that. They do literally become much more, empathic, but they don't live in a realistic world. They're too trusting of people. They become really trusting of people. They think that the universe is going to provide them with anything, anytime they need it. For example, they can drop everything and leave, and everything will work itself out. When in reality, that's not always the case. It could actually end up people end up homeless or dead that way. I guess you could call this an acid casualty type scenario. Now, I'm not saying if this girl stopped now, or shit, she does this for a few more years, when she stops, she will regain her ability to live in a more realistic state of mind, I believe, strongly. I mean, I've seen people go that far and then come back all the time. Now, if you're already mentally ill, you're going to cause yourself problems that way. I'm kind of going off topic. Maybe not, actually. Maybe not. I think, so what happens when you take a psychedelic, I don't know, when you're on LSD, like if you look at your hands, you can see every little pore. You can see every little hair in great detail. It's almost like when you look at your hand, it's almost like you're in a flesh forest, and you see all the hairs. It's almost like you're there, and you zoom into it. It's really a fascinating aspect of psychedelics. What it actually does is you literally, when you're in a normal mindset, sober mindset, your mind only takes in what it needs to function, the bare minimum. Literally, your mind fills in what's going on in the periphery. It does this to save energy and time, and just to do the bare minimum that it needs to survive. It takes in the information, it processes it, and that's why we miss so much. Like if you walk down the street, for example, and I stopped you and I said, now why don't you tell me every car that you saw on that street? Your mind actually recorded it, but as far as recall goes, you're not going to be able to, unless you've been meditating for years and you've developed a really powerful concentration. People that mathematical geniuses, people that are always playing with numbers and stuff, develop really strong concentration skills, and they may be much better at that. They may be able to recall these things, but your average person is not going to be able to. Anyway, so LSD, and when you're like looking at your hand, let's go back to that. I know a lot of people that have never done drugs in their life, and I've talked about my HPPD before with them, and they say that well, I don't know what you're talking about, because I've seen static as far as I can remember. They've seen static all their life, and so they believe that that's a normal thing. And it makes me wonder, well, maybe I did too. I remember looking up in the air as a little kid and seeing the little floaters and stuff, and I know I've seen static before. Why do I see it so much more prevalent now. So, when you take LSD and you take in all this information and you can see every little pore and you can see every little hair growing all simultaneously, your mind's not cutting corners and just taking in what it needs. In your normal sober state, you see a hand, that's it. You look over, okay, cool. When you're on LSD, you notice every fucking thing, every wrinkle, everything. And you just take it in, you absorb it. You take in much more sensory input. And you're seeing that static in the air when you're tripping to a much greater degree. I've seen it. I know a lot of people have seen it. You can almost, it starts to swirl and make patterns. The air is actually, the ether is moving. So when you come down off the acid, you still kind of notice it. You still kind of, there's a residual effect. You notice that you're able to tune into that headspace again, with more ease. I'd imagine if you do it a lot, over and over, you develop maybe an involuntary ability to do so. And now you're always seeing that. So that could be, HPPD or whatnot. Now, this is where I want to get into placebo effect. I know I've repeated myself. I do this unscripted. This is totally impromptu. I didn't know I was going to make a video today. So, I'm sorry if I'm all over the place. My bad. I try and stay linear, but that's not really how my mind works. So placebo. I have that pill I showed you, and I'm going to give it to someone for HPPD. Because I've cured mine. I've done a video on that. Mine's gone. Literally. So, my theory, my hypothesis is HPPD is nocebo or placebo effect from the drug. If you have a bad trip especially, oftentimes during this bad trip, many people think, what if I stay like this forever, etc., etc. And sometimes you're capable of fooling yourself into believing that you're stuck like that. You're done. You fried your brain. When we all know now it's common knowledge that LSD is not neurotoxic. There is no evidence of any kind of damage it does to the brain. It's actually a really benign substance, besides it being extremely powerful psychologically. It's physically benign. It's non-toxic, etc. But the mind is extremely powerful. We know this. We know there's evidence of some miraculous, borderline supernatural things that our mind is capable of. If some of these people went to James Randi, they could win the $1 Million Challenge. There's people in Europe, that I watched a documentary on people in Europe that are having surgery, severe surgery performed on them with no anesthesia. They simply were able to control. These aren't like yogis or anything like that. They're just average Joes that learn how to hypnotize themselves into not feeling pain. So that's just one aspect, one of them. There's been some evidence to support that people can have a powerful enough dream in which they hurt themselves in this dream, and the body will react to that. It believes it's actually being damaged, and a wound will appear. This has happened before. There is some evidence to support this. I'm not saying the evidence is super strong, but there are other scenarios that prove that this isn't very far-fetched. For example, there are many, many, many cases of people curing cancer with a placebo pill. They believed that the pill would cure their cancer, when in fact they fooled their mind into doing it themselves. So, don't you think, if we're capable, our minds are capable of this, that our minds are also capable of fooling ourselves into thinking we have HPPD? Not to mention anxiety being the mother of all fuckers. Anxiety exacerbates HPPD. I know this for a fact. When I cured my anxiety, the HPPD was downhill from there. The visual effects were gone. They just, every day faded. Gone. Totally gone. So, this is why this made me think about placebo. It's like, well, wait a minute. This is the way I think we should go about treating HPPD cases. I did a video on how I used mushrooms to cure my HPPD. That's extremely controversial. I've gotten so much shit for that. It's unbelievable. I don't give a shit anymore. I really don't. I tried to help people with... I used to frequently go on the HPPD forums when I first had it. It was like 98. Back in the AOL dial-up days, I had HPPD. I went on there, and it was different then. No one knew much about it. We were still all... When I had HPPD, that wasn't a common... You were perma-fried. I never heard HPPD yet. It took a few years. So maybe like 2000 is when I jumped on the HPPD forum. Back then, there was not a lot of research into it at all. There still isn't a lot, but there's a lot more now than then. We were just all terrified of what we did to ourselves and looking for a cure and just sort of throwing around ideas. But I diligently just kept reading and reading and reading and reading and come to my own conclusion from all these other experiences of people with it. I began to realize after a while that I'm not damaged. There is no damage. This is all in my head. This isn't some neurological damage. So, before it was really mainstream, I was reading about what some people referred to as the hair of the dog. Like, you can take a little bit of acid, have a good experience. If you facilitate a good experience, you can actually remove all that like you're stuck in a bad trip. Now, I know not everyone got HPPD from a bad trip, but mine went full blown after my bad trip, and it was a huge, massive dose. It was between 400 and 700 mics. I don't know exact number, but it's in that range, and that is fucking huge. That is a huge dose. That is, the average street hit, we all know now, is between 50 and 100 mics. 100 mics is a strong hit. It's a nice, strong experience. But, yeah, so mine was between 400 and 700 mics, and so I was fucked up for quite a while. That had a massive impact on my life, and I had depersonalization, derealization, HPPD, delusions. I was afraid everything was laced with LSD. I was afraid to go out and buy a drink, a sealed drink, and then open it because it might have LSD in it. I would create, scenarios in my head, like what if someone went to work and they had a vial of LSD in their pocket when they were bottling this water, and it accidentally fell out and somehow got in this water. You know what I mean? Just like, this is why placebo is, you can hypnotize yourself so easily, and you become so susceptible to it under the influence of LSD, under the influence of psilocybin. You can become convinced of things very easily. These are very powerful tools to better yourself. And if you fuck with them, if you push the envelope, if you get really reckless, you can be left convinced of things, long-lasting effects, as we all know. So my theories on this, my hypotheses or whatnot. Okay, so anyway, the mushroom trip. I had I took the mushrooms and had the most amazing euphoria, and literally felt all this negativity just drain out of me. I could almost physically feel it. And when you physically feel it and see it leaving you, that has a powerful effect on the mind. You can go the woo-woo route and say that there's a literal, and I'm not against that at all. I'm a spiritual person. I'm not by any means woo-woo and superstitious, but there's something to all of that. That's a whole nother topic again, but I saw this stuff leaving my body, and after years and years of suffering, it was gone. So did I create a placebo effect to treat my HPPD? I'll never know. I mean, I believe that there's a lot more to the placebo effect than we know. I think that this may be the very source of what woo-woo stems from. All the spiritual, like, far-out mumbo-jumbo that people create, myths and stories from, comes from this very fact that the mind is that powerful, and that we can manipulate our own bodies physically. We can kill cancer with our mind. We can destroy cancer cells with our mind. We can cure our own asthma with placebo. We can cure our own allergies with placebo. We can cure our own severe phobias with hypnosis or placebo, whatever you want to call it, whatever label you want to put on it. So here I am today, many decades after, almost 2 decades after that bad experience, and I am recreationally and medicinally, once in a while, still using these substances with no ill effect at all. No exacerbation of HPPD, no nothing. So, let me see, I wrote some more things down here, and give me a sec. So I think basically I'm pretty much done. I think I basically got my point across, even though I apologize in advance for being so sloppy. This is how I write in a journal. I'm basically just anything on my mind, I'm getting it out there to you guys unfiltered, because I feel like when I do, I overthink it, and sometimes I leave shit out of my videos that I would like to include. So I'm going to do it more often like this, and I hope it works for you. I hope you get something out of this. I do not recommend, I can't recommend the use of any psychotropic drugs. illegal ones rather. I cannot recommend any illegal activity. I do not condone it. I only condone that every one of you out there research, read, educate yourself, because there's so much information out there that some of you don't need to be suffering, that you guys can take hold of your life today and change it and reverse your HPPD. So I hope that helped a bit. Take it easy, guys.